Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel. It's Wednesday afternoon here in Wallsend. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Now, where do I start on that defeat last night? How do I unbox this? Now, I want to say at the outset, last night, I left Stack, we watched it there, we decided there in the end. We're going to go to Wonder Bar, but it was a bit quiet. Went to Stack. It's the first time I've actually watched a match at Stack. And I loved it. It was brilliant. The atmosphere was incredible, the pre-match build-up. So that's the first time I've experienced it. So I'll say that was enjoyable. And then the first 15-20 minutes were enjoyable. And then from there, obviously it was a back and forward first half. There was about 17-18 attempts between the teams. And it ended on 38 attempts between the teams at full time. But look, it was never going to be an easy game, because I mentioned in my preview that I remember the game 21 years ago when Woodgate went out injured for end of the first leg, and then the second leg, Drogba just turned it on in the Stade Velodrome, and then where dreams of Gothenburg died. But last night, I didn't think Marseille were that great. I still feel they're an average team. How would they do well in the Premier League? I don't know, maybe mid-table, but look, I mean, they're second in their league. They've got 28 points, 9 wins, I believe it's 1 draw, 3 defeats, 28 points behind PSG, 2 points behind them in second. But they lost the last ChampionsLeague game at home to Atalanta 1-0. So they weren't unbeatable at home. And look, they've got a few players in there, some will recognise, ex-Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. One guy who we actually tried to sign years ago, and he played, I think, a game for Heaton Stannington, with just some mad stat. But then now he's in Marseille at 36. And then Spurs' ex-player, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And then they had Angel Gomez, who came through Manchester United's academy. But I just thought, look, we can get the better of these. It's all about, like, when teams come to St James's Park, quieting the crowd down. And Eddie Howe, he made 3 changes. Started with a 5-4-1, and then attacking, transitioning to offensive play. It looked like it was a 3-5-2 with Barnes off Gordon. And then it would go and attacking into that midfield 3 of Bruno, Willock and Tonali. And then he had wing backs and Jacob Murphy right back, Tino Livramento left back. And the changes were Byrne came back in at left centre back for Lewis Hall. Anthony Gordon came in for Volta-Mada. And then he had Joe Willock for Joe Linton. And you know what? I just thought, I wasn't surprised to see Byrne back in there. But when going to Eddie Howe's loyalty to players, how they've done for him, I can understand rewarding loyalty, but the sentiment needs to stop, because 3 players out of form coming out the back of that last night, especially Anthony Gordon, Nick Pope and Dan Byrne. And look, we started well. It's such a tough ground. That stadium looks fantastic. The atmosphere, you could hear it coming through the TV. We were upstairs. But like, we're quieting them down early on. I think the formation caught De Zerbi's team out. And the front 5 immediately were pressing in Bruno, in Willock, and in Tonali, and Gordon, and Barnes. And it looked like they didn't have an answer. We had the chance early on. Tonali's free kick. Chow had it headed off the line by Højbjerg before Gordon could get a head on it. And then obviously we made the breakthrough. It was brilliant. Willock, who I felt had actually a good game. Look, I still don't think Joe Willock's got a future here, but it tells you something though as well when he's starting ahead of Jacob Ramsey. I don't know what's going on with Jacob Ramsey, but Willock got the ball, waited for Tonali, who dropped behind 2 defenders to come back on side. Lovely ball behind to him, and then he played it in. Gordon tried to get a flick onto it, and before the defenders could react, Harvey Barnes, showing his form and his confidence, was the first man to it to react, and he drilled it with his left foot in the bottom corner. And you thought, great, now can we change the away narrative? Can we push on? Can we be that cutthroat Newcastle United in previous seasons who have went on, then got a second and a third? But it played out of the same script. I mean, we still had a couple of other chances. Gordon was played through by Willock on the right. His shot was saved. And then another one where he kind of gave up after he's played through down the left. That could have been 2-0. But inevitably, what we've been doing is we've been regressing. We've been coming back. And I don't know, is it a mentality problem? Is it confidence? But we're not playing to Nick Volta-Mada's strengths as well away from home. And look, I can understand Eddie Howe's rotations. But yet again, we're regressed. and we allowed Marseille to get the territory. They started dominating possession. We didn't push on, and then that gets the crowd up, and then they've got the confidence, and then suddenly we're on the back foot, yet we've got the lead. And I think our tactic was to try and soak it up and hit them on the counter, but that's not been working. And yeah, they had their chances. Obviously, I felt down the right, Weah was good with Greenwood, and they linked up well. A good ball in as well by Pai Shao to Aubameyang, took it on his chest. Pope, routine saved, so you expect him to save it. It was a good save. And then the other chance that was played into Aubameyang, his header, I think that was Greenwood's cross, and then he put it wide of the post when it was a sitter. It was easier to score. But we had chances at the other end as well, but we just didn't push on, and I feel like it is a crisis of confidence. And I do think it's a mentality thing, like I've said. When we're used to push on and get a second and third, but now when we get a goal, we sit back and it feels like we're scared to commit and go and get another. Now, I don't know if that's because Dan Burn was back in the team, but he was at left centre-back, so I can understand if he was left back, but he was left centre-back, so you haven't got that worry of the balls over and behind him. And I understand why Tino was left wing-back, because he had to contain Greenwood, and Murphy's played right wing-back before, but going through the team, like Shaw was outdone for pace. He didn't react quick enough to their second goal. Chow was outstanding. I felt sorry for him. He was let down all night because he was having to cover at right wing back for Murphy, because Murphy kept switching off defensively, offered nothing offensively. And again, I know he's been asked to play right wing back, but he wasn't offering much. And then Dan Burn, he was all right in the air, but done for pace. Got a yellow card, missed a sitter, and he switched off for the second goal as well, and he was pushed too high up at left back for the equaliser. So it wasn't a pretty night for the defence. Chow yet again composed, looked classy on the ball, excellent tackle on Aubameyang, but he was doing everyone else's job, so that was equally frustrating. In the midfield, look, it said it was a 5-4-1 transitioning in with 3-5-2, but I feel like it was more a 5-2-3, because it looked like Willock was getting down the right, Barnes down the left, Gordon through the centre. And then it like Bruno as well. When you look at it, Bruno and Tonali were in there, but Bruno was more the 6 and Tonali was still in the 8. So when Willock and Tonali were pushing up, Bruno looked like he was isolated and he wasn't getting on the ball as much. When we changed to 4-3-3 second half, he was getting on the ball more, and he was trying to make things happen, but his execution was poor. He didn't have a good night. But again, the formation didn't help Bruno in that he was outnumbered in the centre of the park. Tonali started well. It's on the ball, high energy. He was dangerous, creating openings, but even he faded, and that was a result and a consequence of the team playing poorly. And it summed it up at the end of the game where he put a free kick out of play. That's not like Tonali. Him, so good, an uncharacteristic error, sloppy in possession. That is not Sandro Tonali. So yeah, but it all came as a consequence, and I have to get to it, because how it ended, like Man City at half-time, only 1-0 to us, I don't know. I felt Marseille deserved the goal. But you thought, we've got in at the break, let's keep it calm, reorganise, regroup, just chill everything out and just say, look, nothing daft. And then Nick Pope didn't get the memo. It's like Every delivered something to him. It never arrived. It was in the hedge, because Nick Pope, that moment of madness. And look, I will say, I know one player doesn't cost you a result, but Nick Pope's actions were the consequence and the subsequent domino effect of our second half performance, because within 20 odd seconds, I don't know why Dan Burn was pushing up when we've got a 1-0 lead. He was in front of Tino Livramento. Livramento then suddenly realised Burn was there. Then he had no one in behind him, and then Bukola put one ball in behind for Aubameyang, but you saw Malik Chow there, and you're thinking, Aubameyang's 36, Malik Chow's got the pace and the age on him, so you're thinking, well, we're okay there, we've got the cover. And then out of nowhere, coming into shot, Nick Pope, and you're like, what's he doing? No man's land? And I'm sorry, I can't defend him anymore, because he's an experienced keeper. He's played for England, Champions League football, and he's doing that at the highest level. It's unforgivable. And in the past, his distribution's always been poor, and I don't get why he's still playing when it looks like we're trying to be a possession-based team from the back. why isn't Ramsdale in there? But I'm done with defending Nick Pope now, solely for the fact that he made that error and he's experienced and he shouldn't be doing it. He hasn't got the pace, he hasn't got the physical agility to get out there and sweep like that. And it was like 30 odd yards outside of his goal. What is he doing? Like, it's just a moment of madness. I just can't believe what he was doing. And look, when he had his good shot stopping and he was claiming things in the air and he was commanding his area, I can understand, like, I can let it go if you want, that his kicking's a little poor. But now the rest of his game's not looking that good. He's punching, he's flapping at crosses. You don't see him talking to his defenders. And now his shot stopping's iffy, and he's cost us now. That's 4 consecutive away defeats, and in the last three of them have been because of Nick Pope errors. You've got Paquetá's shot at the near post at West Ham, and then you had his error where he didn't stay in his goal at Brentford, and then Sharda got the header. So it's just his decision making at the minute so bad, and I'm done defending him. A bit like, look, I know Eddie Howe had to change the formation and protect Lewis Hall, and then that's why he put Tino left back against Greenwood, and he's trying to protect Volta-Morta without Wissa. But so I understand in a way like why he's playing that like 5 at the back, that formation. Then he changed to 4-3-3, but it's defending the inexcusable now, because Burn, another poor game, and it feels like he's just changing formation at times to shoehorn players in, and he's too loyal. And I'm sorry, you've got to get rid of the sentiment. You can't keep playing players through sentiment. You've got to start being ruthless, and they've got to play on form and reward. They get rewarded for good form, and Burns not in good form, Gordon's not in good form, and Pope's not in good form. I feel sorry for players who played well yesterday. Malik Chow, Joe Willock and Harvey Barnes now has 4 Champions League goals, 4 in his last 3 games. But then the second goal, because they'd got the equaliser, then you thought, right, can we get a foothold, try and push on, get a second? We thought we had it when Harvey Barnes scored from Jacob Murphy's cross, but then he was ahead of player, rightly offside. And then within 5 minutes of the restart, before you could blink and think, we're 2-1 down, and then it just kind of shattered with confidence. And again, like, tactical misalignment away from home, fragile mentality, confidence issues, because that second goal should never have happened either. Tino Livramento was beaten far too easily by Weir, and then Dan Burns switched off. Fabian Schär realised too late that Aubameyang had made the run. Burn hadn't spotted him, and then he got a tap in at the near post into the roof of the net. No chance for Nick Pope. And then before you know it, with chances faded into the night. Yeah, it was frustrating. It should have been a game where we should have won on the chances. Yeah, both teams had 38 in total. But yeah, it's just another one of those away games where it's now, 1 win in 7 games this season, that being a Union Saint-Gilloise. But yeah, it's just still no domestic away win since April at Leicester City, and these hard working fans paying so much money to go and see we're around the country, me included, and the rest of us, are just not getting any value for money at the moment. And Everton now looms on Saturday, and that game's massive. They got a great win at Old Trafford, and now we'll have to find the answers, and fast, because the noise is just going to become unbearable. It's going to like crank up, and it'll soon register on the Richter scale. It'll cause earthquakes. I mean that. You can't go on this long with 1 step forward, 2 steps back, as I said in my last video, by winning at home but then not winning away. And yeah, we're 6th in the table. We're currently 8th, still in the automatic promotion spots for the knockouts, but teams play tonight. We could have went 4th. That could have eased the pressure with tricky games away to Leverkusen in a couple of weeks, and PSG. We should beat PSV at home, and that would have took the pressure out Leverkusen, and then needing to get anything in the 2 away games. And then we could have rested players for the derby, because that's still the biggest game of the season. It always will be. And yeah, but it just feels like an opportunity missed. But I know the bigger picture. This game's not going to cost us a Champions League place at the moment, because there's still 3 games to go in this league phase. It's just one of those where it feels like it's a massive opportunity missed in a game where, yes, it was an end-to-end first half. I felt we were lucky to be ahead, but it's one where we got to half-time in the lead. We could have pushed on. But just as the rain starts, I just want to sum up by saying it wasn't as worse as West Ham or Brentford. I felt we were a lot better than those 2 games last night. But again, it was suicide again. We shot ourselves in the foot. That game was in our grasp, and it's on us why we chucked that away with so many costly individual errors. And I would play a 4-3-3 at Everton. It would be Ramsdale, Tino, Botman, Chow, Hall, Bruno Tonali, Joe Linton, Elanga, Barnes and Voltemata. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be back with my post-match reaction after Everton on Saturday. For now, take care. Bye-bye.